Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Rohit and this is the 10th sessions of the integration training. In this 10th sessions, we'll talk about that scripted REST, what is the scripted REST and what is the difference between scripted REST and scripted SOAP, and how we can implement the similar functionality through the scripted REST. So without wasting time, let's get started. So basically scripted REST and scripted SOAP both are the different terminology. Scripted SOAP is a protocol and the REST is a method. So previous video we created a scripted SOAP. Using the scripted SOAP we are able to get the information of that particular groups, and also we are able to create some of the details. So now today we will do the similar functionality through the scripted REST. So if I go back to the scripted SOAP, whatever we have created, so if I go back to the scripted SOAP and if I open the scripted SOAP, so we have done two API. One is the get group information, another is the incident record. So get group information help us to get the group information, and in the incident record, if I open one by one, so this get group information help us to get the group information. We are just receiving the group name, and based on the group name, we are passing some of the information. Similarly, here in this case, for the creation of this one, we are checking multiple variables, multiple values, and finally we are able to create these incident record through the scripted web services. The similar functionality we are going to do one by one in the today's class using the REST method. So very first thing is that to similarly scripted web services, to create the REST message, we have to type the scripted REST message. Once you go to the scripted REST API, there are out-of-box API which is available by default. I am going to create our own API. So click new. Once you click new, you will be able to see the a new view, and in this view right side you can see the API namespace. This is nothing but your company name. So if you're working for ABC company, the API namespace will be that company name called ABC, something like that. And this is the read only, you can't change this one. So this is coming from your company name. Next thing is the name, and then API ID. So here we need to provide the name. Based on the name, API ID will be pre-populated, and definitely name matters because in the name your API will URL endpoint will be have this name. So let's say I am going to say that integration training, REST integration training. Once I go back here, you can see that API ID is automatically generated based on this name that I have provided. I'll put a space, and now you can see each and every space they are taking as an underscore. So make it small as much as possible. If you want to make this API ID, you can change that and simply save the record. Once you save the record, there will be couple of variable. You can see the base API path. This field is available, and this field is nothing but this is your endpoint. So whenever you are going to hit, or this any third party is going to hit, they will take this instance name slash this your endpoint. So I will copy this one. This is my environment, and apart from that, this is my base API. I'll copy that and paste here. So this will be my endpoint. If I hit that, this is my endpoint which is right now created. And using this endpoint, we are going to do, or we are going to perform certain actions. Now, if I go back, here we have a security. By default, whatever security ACL is there, it's there. If you want to customize, you can go ahead and customize that. Now we have a content negotiation. In this content negotiations, we have two type of things. One is the default supported request format and default supported response format. It means that when I am receiving the data, what will be the format, and when I am responding to the server or to third party, what should be our response format. If you want to override with this XML or JSON to some text file or any other file, you can just click the override and you need to define that override format here. This is the basic stuff. Now in the documentation, if you want to put some documentation link, some short description kind of things, you can do that. So that's it. Let's save that. So this is the first the method that or the scripted REST you have created. Now once we scroll down, we have a resources. Under these resources, we have to define our own resource. The first resource is called get group information, that resource that we have created for SOAP. I'm going to copy the same name and I'm going to create a resource name here. And here you can define the resource name. Now in this resource name, by default it's populated with the get method. You can change to the get to post, put, patch, delete, any of this method. By default it get method. So whenever we are dealing with the ServiceNow scripted REST, we are dealing with the REST method. We have a these are the method you already discussed. One is the get, post, push, put, patch. So let's say our case they are asking some information from us and we are responding based on them. So in that case, let it be the method is the get and save that. Here in the script part, we are going to write the script. So I am just saving that. Now on the top, you can see the resource path is generated. Now if I scroll down, under this bottom also we have that security required authentication or not, required ACL required or not, content negotiation part, documentation part. It's pretty much the similar kind of things that is present to the REST scripted REST message over this parent. Now we have two things. One is the request header association and query parameter association. So these two are similar to this. If you go back to the scripted, so here we have the input parameter. So similarly, it's kind of parameter that we have to define. So we have a query parameter, we have a header parameter. Query parameter is something used to get the query. So we are going to create a query parameter. So whenever somebody hit your endpoint, if they want to pass as a query, so you need to define as a query. If they want to pass as a header, you need to pass as a header association. Now I'm going to create a query parameter here, click new. And in this query parameter, you can see it's a reference fields. I need to click here, API query parameter. And I need to create a new query parameter. Here I need to put the name and then API definition and then example value. So I'll copy this query parameter called group name. Here I'll pass this query parameter is group name, and here in this API definition we need to put that scripted scripted REST name. So we are going to put the REST integration training. And now this is the short description, this is the example value. We can just ignore that and save that. And once it is done, we just have to resubmit that. So now our query parameter is set, and this is the query parameter we are getting that. Now here, if you see, we are receiving this value. I am just going to do one thing. I'll copy this whole code from here, from this part to this part, till this part, and paste here in our newly created scripted SOAP. Now one thing we have to do here, we are previously receiving the request.group name. By that we are receiving previously we are receiving that group name. So what we have to do here in this case, instead of this one, what we have to do here, you just need to be remove that and then put request dot. Here we can see that we have a call query parameter. We just need to push this query parameter, and then we need to put this query parameter name. So what is the query parameter name that we have created called group name? This parameter name we just need to pass that, so that we are receiving the query parameter that they are passing. Okay, and then you can see like this scripted web services, we do, if you see this output parameter, there was an output parameter, but in this case here we don't have any output parameter. For that, what we have to do here, what we can do, we need to define a you can see this is the response that we are sending. So what we have to do, we need to declare a JSON called say var JSON, and in this JSON we need to set all these response. So what we'll do, response like this one, JSON, we need to replace this one. So basically what we did, we have declare a variables called JSON, and inside the JSON, whatever response we are trying to send, that will do that. And then what we'll do here in this last line, we'll say that response dot set body, and here we will set this actual body that we are receiving. Okay, and you can see if we can define the response code based on our criteria. So let's say that here we will say the response dot set status code equal to 200 here if we want, and here we can say that 400, something like that. Set status, and here we can say that 400, something like that, or 405, something like that we can define. Now let's test this functionality with our Postman tool. So we'll do a quick test. For that, what I'll do here, I will, if you see here, we have a called explore REST API. You can directly click here. Using that, you don't need to try your REST API Explorer. You can try yourself from this ServiceNow itself only. Now, in this case, you can see by default it's generated one query parameter, that is group name. We just need to be pass the group name to see all these informations are that whatever we are expecting is passing or not. For that, I'll go back to this sys user group table. Under the sys user group table, we have a CAB approval. So if I open this CAB approval, you can see that we have a roles, group member, all these stuffs. So I'll copy this name and pass to our this testing tools, which is called REST API Explorer. We'll pass this group name without any space. Make sure that there should not be any space, and click the send. Once we click the send, we should be able to get the response. So you can see by default we are getting that the group CAB approval is not found in the ServiceNow. That's something we are getting. So probably we need to put toString. Sometime what happens due to this toString, it did not work. So let's put this toString and let's try. So if we try it, and we got the success 200, and you can see whatever data we are expecting, we are getting the data called group name, group manager, group email, result, user, role, all this value we are getting as per expected. Now if we change this name to something called to group approval 1, and if we send run, we can see this group CAB approval is not found into ServiceNow. So this way you can use this in your method, and you can use that using this ServiceNow. You can create the scripted REST, and using the scripted REST you can perform certain actions. So let me do one thing. These things I am going to perform same thing in our Postman. So what I'll do, I'll open the Postman. I just open my Postman, and what I will do, I will copy this endpoint here. So I'll just copy this endpoint and go back to this Postman and paste this. The method will be remain same as a get. If you go back to the parameter, you can see this is the parameter we are passing here. And then authorization, we should select the basic authentication, and then we are setting this user and click send. Once we send that, we can see this response that we are receiving from the ServiceNow. So this way we can, get some information. We can put our custom code to our ServiceNow using scripted REST, and we can get these informations. So this thing is done. To getting the data is done, kind of thing is done. It means that our first purpose to get the data is done. The next method we are going to talk about that how we can create a record using that scripted REST. So for what we can do here in this functions or in this REST method, right now you can see previously in our SOAP message we can only create one operation with the same name. So if you go back to this get group information, you have a function name called execute, but you can't create more function inside this one scripted SOAP. But in the REST we do have capacity that we can create multiple resource inside this one method. So first method is the get method. Another method we can create that create the incident. So we put based on that incident record. So I'm going to copy this same name and paste here. And this time that we are going to create that something. In that case, we should put that method equal to post. And once we put the method, remain r as it is like the get. We need to paste the code that is present for the SOAP message. So I'm going to copy and paste whole body. So I'll copy from here and paste to our code here. Now certain thing we have to be keep in mind that previously we are getting that if you see here in this incident record, the SOAP method, we have a input parameter and we have a output parameter. So if you are passing for posting the data or posting the data previously for getting the data or to get one of the information like group name, we use that in the get method, we use the query parameter. But in this case, we are not going to use the query parameter. Query parameter used to query something, but in this case, we are posting something. So what we'll do, we'll take as a JSON format from the system and we'll process that. For that, what we'll do, I'll say that var data, and then here we'll say the response dot body. So we'll say that we should say that request dot body dot data. So we need to do the request dot body dot data. So once we do the request dot body dot data, whatever JSON you are going to pass in your in this case for the creation of the incident, it will be received all this complete JSON. And now instead of the request, we are going to replace with the caller ID. We are going to replace everywhere where this method is mentioned as a request. So I will change that request. So here we are getting the request.body.data, and then this request will be changed as a data. So data will have a complete JSON, and inside the JSON we are going to fetch the short description. We are going to fetch the CI. We are going to fetch the impact. We are going to set that urgency, something like that. We are going to do all this case here. Here similar thing we have to do. All these places wherever we do have. Okay, so every places we have replaced that wherever we are using the directly request dot that field name, instead of that we have to use the data dot something like that. Now next thing is that we are sending some response. Previously for the response parameter, what we have result number and CSAT. These are the response parameter we used to have. So similar parameter, we can't create that output parameter here. For that, we can say that var output JSON, something like that. And in this JSON, we are going to define that JSON that we are responding previously. For that, what we will have to do, we just search with the response wherever the response is there. So in this case, if the successfully incident created, we are passing that response dot result response or CSID response dot number, and otherwise we are passing the response equal to v1. So this thing we will replace like here, and then after that what I'll do, response dot set body, and then we'll paste this one. So in that case we'll pass that. Let's save our this method. So in this method, using this method, we are going to create the incident using our REST method. Previously we did for the SOAP method. So this is our REST method. And if I click explore REST API, you can see that it will be open directly ServiceNow in-house testing tools, which is the REST API Explorer. Here you can see we do have add field where we can add the field. So our field name are, let's copy from here. What are the input parameter? One is the short description. Let's say what are the input parameter we are using in our code. So if I search with the data, so we are using the caller ID. So I'm going to use the caller ID, and the next parameter we are going to use that CI. Next parameter we are going to use that impact. Now all these parameters are set. We need to be passed this information. So let's go back to this incident and put all this information as much as possible. So I'll go back to this incident table now, and let's say that this is the SOAP message, or this is the SOAP, from the SOAP it was getting created. So we will say that my name as a caller, CI name is, this is the CI ABC. We'll pass this ABC, and then impact is 1 and urgency is 2 or something like that, 2 2. So these are the information. Along with that, we should have passed the short description. We used to have this uh, this one. So I'll copy and paste the short description, and here the value will be created from REST API. Okay, and let's, if we try to send the data, so we are going to try to send the data. Once we try the data, we can see this incident got created. We got the 200 and incident got created. Let's go back to the incident table and see that incident is getting created or not. So you can see this incident got created and created from REST API, and then all this information are populated properly. So we can validate that one. So you can see all this information are populated properly. The CI name, impact, urgency, the caller, everything is populated properly. And let's not pass this short description and then try to send that and check that the validation is also working or not. So if I send that, we can say that the response or result we are getting, that short description cannot be banned. So this error message we are getting, but error code, the status code is not changed. We can do that here. We can define that called response dot set error or something like set. We can do status code, and here we can define that 405, something like that, and save that. So whenever the response, or whenever we are getting the wrong thing, we pass that 405 method. So let's send that, and now we are getting 405 because the short description is not there. So this way you can do two things, but one thing I just want to show you that. So let's try from the Postman. So I'll copy this endpoint now, go back and change here, and then method will be post, and then body I'll say the raw, and then change to that JSON, and here I will paste the JSON that I'm passing. So this is the JSON I am passing. So I will copy this JSON and paste here. Along with that, I need to pass the short description. This parameter is missing, so I will copy this short description here, and then say that created from REST 2. Now if we try to send from there, and the authentication will be basic, and if we send that, we can see we got a response called incident created. And if we go back to the body and remove this short description and send that, we should get an error with the 405. So this is the 405 method we got, and then the error we are getting. Notice one thing properly or closely. If you see this endpoint called API slash company name and then REST integration, and here we got similar kind of REST integration, similar kind of, nothing difference. Only this part is difference because this is the query parameter. It doesn't matter. How the system know that this is for creating and this is for getting? Because they are defining by this method get. So when you created this SOAP message or REST message, inside the REST message, whenever you are declaring the resource, whenever we are declaring the resource, we defining that get method, post method. Using this method system, it is get method, and this is the post method. So using this method name only, system identify that which one or which resource I have to call that. Okay. In case you have similarly two get method, you can use the relative path. So if you create another, let's say that I am going to create that get incident, something like that. Okay, and if I save that, what will be happen? So once we save that, this get in incident, you can say that you cannot create another similar method, HTTP method, without relative path. So you need to define that relative path. So get incident, something like that, and submit that. So in this method or in this scripted REST, you can't create with the similar name of similar resource with that similar kind of resource. So if I go back to this REST integration, you can't create one get method, one more get method without any relative path. So without relative path, you cannot create that get method because this get method already created. Because whenever these API will be executed, there will be one relative path. So this will be your another endpoint. Okay, so previously it was still this integration. Now you added this relative path because of that endpoint little bit lengthy. So that's it for today. If you have any question, let me know in my comment section. Thank you very much. Have a great day.